Hi crochet friends and family, welcome to another tutorial, Cele's V-Stitch Shawl. It's been a while since I made a video, and since we are under, I don't like to use the word lockdown, but that's what they're calling it. It's just advised that we all limit our time of going out in public. And since I have all this time being homebound, which is probably a crocheting community's dream, I might as well make a video for this pattern. So I came up with it because I was looking for a V-stitch shawl and I couldn't find one anywhere. So I said, well, I guess I have to make my own. And I have seen similar ones like the mesh shawl, but I wanted something like fully V-stitch and an easy pattern. You know, this is only a 2-row repeat. And I like to use a I guess it's like between a medium and sport weight type of yarn, but like you've seen in the first 2 shawls, I use the Lion Brand Mandala Ombre, which is my absolute favorite yarn. I just love that yarn, but I can't find that one anywhere, and I wanted to use that for this tutorial. But yeah, I can't find it. I could order it online, but I'm more of a tangibility person. I want to feel it, see it, make sure the colors are there that I want, make sure that, you know, they all match, because I have seen skeins where, you know, it's the same brand, same yarn, same color, and it's been off. So I'm like, well, when I find it, I'll get it. But so for this one, I'm actually using sugar and cream cotton yarn. This is called Coral. It's absolutely beautiful. It might be Coral Rose, but I know it's something coral. And so, this yarn shows up really good in the videos, so that's why I'm using this one. But really it's the needle, in my opinion, because you want to use a needle that is like 2 sizes bigger than what it calls for, at least 2 sizes. So I know the Mandala Ombre, I think it calls for like a 5.5, and I'm using an 8, and it just drapes like really nicely. So you know, I put a cup of water here because I'm like, I have to drink water. I get very parched when I start talking a lot, and I feel like I'm losing my voice, but I do apologize for that. Anyway, yeah, so going back, I really think it's the needle, because the bigger the needle, the nice drape you'll have. I actually have my little bin over here. So I wanted to like show you that it just, you know, it drapes really nicely. And that's what you want with a shawl. You know, you want it to flow really nicely. So yeah, trying to think there's something else I wanted to mention. You know, every row, every shawl is about 35 rows, give or take, not counting, that's just with the V-stitch. That's not counting if you add a border, which I'll go into all that at towards the end. What else? Yeah, and it doesn't count like the first 2 rows because, well, that's the starting rows. It doesn't even start the repeat row, so I'm not counting that as well. And I think that's everything. If things come to me as I go along, I'll mention them. Yeah, so let's get started. All right, so the very first thing we're going to do is do a slip knot onto our hook. So we're going to take the yarn, and what I like to do to get the yarn onto my hook is this is for the newbies. If you have your own way, please do it. But I'm just going to show you how I do it. So what I do is I take the yarn, wrap it around my fingers, make like an X, hold it with my pinky, put the needle underneath, grab that other one and twist, and then pull these 2. And now you have your slip knot on your needle, and we're ready to begin. Alrighty, so we have our slip stitch on our hook, and our slip knot, excuse me. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I'm always correcting myself if I'm not saying it correctly or right, but I want to use right terminology, of course. Okay, so the thing we're going to do right now is, you have your choice. If you're already familiar with the magic knot, you can do that. However, I'm not using that technique. I'm going to use what I call the 4 chain circle. So we're going to chain 4 and then we're going to make it into a circle because we need to work into that circle. So what you want to do for the newbies, if there's any newbies on here, to make a chain, you just yarn over your hook and you're going to take this one and you're going to pull it through. And that's going to be your very first chain right there. You never count the one on your hook. So that's our first one. So we're going to do that 3 more times. So we're going to yarn over and then we're going to pull through. Then we're going to yarn over and then we're going to pull through. And then we're going to yarn over and then we're going to pull through. And that's our chain 4 right there. Then we're going to take our needle and we're going to go back into the very first chain right there. For me, you can just go in like that if you want to, but I like to have 2 on my hook, like so, like that. So then you're going to wrap your yarn right there and you're going to pull it through either the 1 or the 2, whatever you decided, and then you're going to pull it through the one that's on your hook. And that's going to give you a nice little circle for us to work into, just like that. So it'll give us a nice circle. Alrighty, moving right along. So this is going to be our first row, of course, but it's not our V-stitches or our 2-row repeat yet. So we have to get started. We have to make a foundation to get there. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain up 3. So just like you did in the beginning, you're going to yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. And that is going to give us our 3 chain, which is actually going to count as our first double crochet. Now we need to make, into this loop, we need to make 4 more double crochets, a chain 1, and then 5 double crochets going back down. And we're going to work that all into that circle right there. So go ahead and yarn over your hook, stick your needle right through that hole, and then you're going to pull your yarn through. Then you're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. And that is your first double crochet. Technically, it's your second because, like I said, we're going to count this chain 3 as a double crochet. So now we need to make 3 more double crochets. So yarn over, insert your hook. You know what I forgot to do? I wanted to work over this tail, but I'm not going to be able to do that. If you can, it's better if you haven't started already, or if you have the opportunity to work around this tail, you know, go around it like this, but I can't do that. But it is a good idea to do. Okay, so we need to do 3 more double crochets into this circle. So go ahead and insert your hook through the circle, pull up your yarn, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. Again, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up your yarn, pull through 2, pull through 2. 1 more, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up your yarn, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. Now we're going to do a chain 1, yarn over, and just pull through the loop on your hook. And that's what we should have so far. So now we need to go back down the other side, right? So we have our chain 1. Now we're going to yarn over and we're going to do 5 more double crochets into this same circle. So go ahead and insert your hook. I need more yarn. Okay, and we're going to yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up your yarn, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up your yarn, pull through 2, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up your yarn, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and we need 1 more. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up your yarn, pull through 2, pull through 2. And that's what we should have so far. Okay, so on to the next. So for this one, from here on out, it's always going to start the same way. And also here is going to be always the same. So we're always going to start with a chain 3, and then we're going to turn our work, of course, and then we're going to go into this stitch right here, the very first stitch, and we're going to do 2 double crochets. Okay, that's always going to start and end like that. So let's go ahead and chain up 3. So yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. And there's our chain 3, and that's going to count as our first double crochet. We're going to turn our work, yarn over, and going right into that very first stitch right there, we're going to do 2 more double crochets. So yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, yarn over, insert your hook into that very first stitch, pull through 2, pull through 2. So we have our chain 3, which counts as our first double crochet, and then we have 2 double crochets into that very first stitch. It's always going to start like that throughout the entire pattern. Now we're going to work into each of these stitches right here, into this one, this one, this one, and this one. So we're going to put 4 double crochets, 1 in this stitch, that stitch, that stitch, and that stitch. And that's going to lead us to our chain 1, which every time we get to our chain 1 space throughout this entire pattern, it's going to be 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. Then we're going to come back down, and 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to do 4 double crochets, just like the other side, because of course we want to keep it symmetrical. and then I'll explain what we do when we get to the chain 3 on the other side. So let's go ahead and do our double crochets, which I hope you know how to do now. That's the yarn over, insert your hook into this next stitch right here, pull up your yarn, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. That's a double crochet. So this entire pattern is double crochet and chains. And that's the only things you really have to remember on this one. Very easy, unless you decide to do a border with a single crochet or something like that, but the rest is chains and double crochets. So we did our first one. Now we have 3 more to do yet. So we're going into the next stitch, which is right here. Insert your hook, pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. That's your other double crochet. And we have 2 more here and there, and that will take us to our chain 1. So here, and then our chain 1. So insert your hook, pull up, over 2, over 2, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. I don't know why I'm saying over 2, but all right, so there we have it. Now we're up to our chain 1. And like I said, always in our chain 1 is always going to be the same through the entire pattern. It is going to be 2 double crochets, a chain 1, 2 double crochets, all into that same space. So yarn over, insert your hook into that space, pull up your yarn, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up your yarn, pull through 2, pull through 2. Then it's a chain 1, yarn over, and pull through. Yarn over, and do 2 more double crochets into that same stitch. Another one. And that's what we should have so far. Now we're ready to work down. Okay, moving right along. Now we're going to do 4 more double crochets into these stitches right there. All right, so yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, pull up your yarn, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. And into our next one right here. Another double crochet. Into the next one, and then into this one right here, the very last one right there before our chain 3. And that should give us 4 double crochets going back down after we did our 2 in our chain 1. So now we're at our chain 3, and it's always going to end the same way, just like it starts the same way, the same stitches in the chain 1, and it's going to end the same way as well. So that's easy to remember. All right, so into the top of the chain 3, so you're going to count up, so 1, 2, and 3 in the very top of that chain 3 space. You're going to insert your hook. I like to have 2 strands on my yarn, on my needle, 2 strands of yarn on my needle. So we're going to yarn over, we're going to pull through, I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. That's our first double crochet, and we need to work 2 more into that same space. So go ahead and insert your hook, 1 double crochet, and then another one for a total of 3 double crochets into the top of that chain 3 space. And that is what you should have so far. Okay, just to recap, we always start with a chain 3 and 2 double crochets into the very first stitch. We always, at the chain 1 space, put 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. We always end into the top of the chain 3 with 3 double crochets. That's really easy to remember. So those are, that's part of the pattern, and it's the beginning, the end of the row, it's the beginning of the row, the middle of the row, and the end of the row. Very simple. So now, this starts our 2-row repeat. So we're going to chain up 3, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. There's our chain 3. We're going to turn our work. We're going to put 2 more double crochets into that very first stitch right there, like we always start. We're always going to start like this. I feel my voice is leaving me. I think I might have to take a drink. Okay, so like I said, we always start just like that. Chain 3 and 2 double crochets into the very first stitch. Okay, that's better. All right, so now we start our V-stitch. Okay, so for that, we are going to skip this stitch right here. We're going to skip that stitch right there. So we're skipping 2, 1, 2, and into this third one right here, we are going to do our V-stitch. So a V-stitch, all it is a double crochet. So insert your hook, pull up your yarn, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. Then we're going to chain 2. So we're going to yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 1. So that's our chain 2. Then we're doing another double crochet right back into that same stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook, pull up your yarn, yarn over, pull through 2, and pull through 2. And there you have your very first V. Okay, so moving right along, we are going to skip this stitch, skip that stitch, and then into this stitch we're going to do another V, which is double crochet, chain 2, double crochet right into that same stitch. Then we're going to skip 2, and then that brings us to our chain 1 space. And always in our chain 1 space, we're going to do 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets into that same space. And then we're just going to work back down. We're going to skip 1, 2, a V-stitch, 1, 2, a V-stitch, skip 1, 2, and then of course it brings us to our chain 3 from our previous row. Okay, so let's get started. Yarn over. We're going to, here's our V-stitch, right? We're going to skip 1, skip 2, into the third. We're going to do a V-stitch. So double crochet, chain 2, and then another double crochet into that same stitch. And there's our second V. Now we're going to skip 1, 2, and we're at the top of our chain 1 space. We're going to insert our hook and do 2 double crochets into that space. Then we're going to do a chain 1 and then 2 more double crochets right into that same space. Just like so. And that's what you should have so far. we have our chain 3, 2 double crochets that we always start with into that same stitch, a V, and then our chain 1s for the next row. All right, so let's work back down. We are going to skip this one. We're going to skip 1 and then 2, and into the third one, we're going to insert our hook and make another V-stitch right into there. Chain 2, and then again into that same space, and there's our V-stitch. Now we're going to skip 1, 2 into the third. We're going to insert our hook and do another V-stitch. Double crochet, chain 2, double crochet right into that same stitch. Okay, now we're going to skip 1, 2, and it brings us to our chain 3. And I'm going to explain how I'm going to do mine. Okay, so you can count up your 1, 2, 3 chains and work your 3 double crochets into the top of that chain 3. Or you can do what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to work right into that space right there where that chain 3 is, and between the chain 3 and then first, that stitch or the double crochet from the previous row, I'm going to work right into here. Reason being is because 1, it's faster, and 2, you're not going to notice it as, through the pattern. Nobody's going to notice that you didn't go into the chain 3. And to me, it just slows me down trying to get my needle in there and get 2 on my hook. So I'm just going to work my 3 double crochets like I just did into that space right there. Okay, so you can do it the way you want to, but I just find it easier just to put it right in there. Okay, we are on to our second row repeat. I call this one the foundation row, because we need to build a foundation so when we do our next row repeat, we can put more V-stitches in. So that's why I call the second row the foundation row. All right, because we already had a foundation to put these V-stitches in for the first row. So the second row is building the foundation to do the first row repeat. So this is going to be our second row repeat. So what we do, as we always start, we're going to chain up 3, and then we're going to turn our work, and then we're going to go into that first stitch and do our 2 double crochets. Like I said, it always starts the same way, just like so. Okay, now for this one we need to add 2 more double crochets. So we're going to add 1 here and 1 there, right into this stitch right there. Okay, so go ahead and insert your hook and do a double crochet into that stitch right there, the very next stitch from here, right? We did our 2 double crochets into this one, and then we're doing 1 in there, and then 1 right into here, just like so. And that brings us to our V-stitch. So every time we have a V-stitch, all we have to do is make another V-stitch inside that V-stitch. How simple is that? So insert our hook in through the V-stitch. Don't ever confuse it with this space right here. Some people can, like they'll go in here. That's not where we go. We go right into the V-stitch right there. So go ahead and insert your hook, pull up your yarn, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, chain 1, chain 2, and go right back, yarn over, go right back into that V-stitch, pull up your yarn, pull through 2, and pull through 2. So that's what we do. We put a V-stitch inside the V-stitch. So easy. So then we skip this one and we go into the next V-stitch. And all we're doing is doing another V-stitch into, sorry, I need more yarn, into the V-stitch. So double crochet, chain 2, double crochet right into that same V, just like so. Okay, so now this is something you will need to remember for the foundation row. We are going to put I'm going to take my needle out so I can show you a little better. So this is part of the V-stitch, this stitch right here. We're actually going to put a double crochet right in there, and then we're going to put a double crochet right in here. And then we're going to jump over and put 2 double crochets in here, our chain 1 and double crochet. And then when we come back down, this is what I want you to see. We are actually going to skip this one because that's what we're doing on this side, is we're actually technically skipping this stitch. So we're going to skip this one, and we're going to put a double crochet here and then a double crochet in the top of that V-stitch right here. Okay, so that's the only thing you really have to remember right there. All right, so for the foundation row only, of course. All right, so we did our V-stitch in the V-stitch right here. Now we're going to do a double crochet right into that very next stitch that's part of the V-stitch from the previous row. And then we're going to put another V-stitch right into this next stitch right here. And then we're going to jump over to the chain 1 space, and we're going to put 2 double crochets, chain 1, and then 2 double crochets into that same space. Sorry, I'm pulling on my yarn at the same time. Okay. So that's what we have so far. We have our, we have our chain 3, 2 double crochets into the first. We have a double crochet into the next stitch, a double crochet into the next stitch. We have a V-stitch into the V-stitch, a V-stitch into the V-stitch. Then we have another V-stitch into the V-stitch. Then we have a double crochet into that very first stitch after the V-stitch, another double crochet into the next stitch, and then we jump over to the chain 1, 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets, chain, no chains, all into that chain 1 space. Now, working back down, we are not going into this stitch right here. We're going into this stitch right here, and we're going to put a double crochet. And then we're going into this stitch that's attached to the V-stitch right there, and we're going to work another double crochet. And that brings us to our V-stitch. And in the V-stitch, we do another V-stitch. So a double crochet, chain 2, another double crochet into that same space of the V-stitch from the previous row. Then we're going to yarn over and jump over to the next V-stitch and put another V-stitch. How easy is that? Nothing to think about there. Whenever you come upon a V-stitch, you put another V inside the V-stitch, just like so. Okay, so now coming back down, we're not going to put a crochet, we're not going to put a double crochet in this one, but we're going to put it in this one and then into this one right here before our chain 3. Okay, so not this one right after our V, but this one right here. We're going to put a double crochet. And then this one right here, the next one before our chain 3, we're putting another double crochet. And that brings us to our chain 3, which you can do 1, 2, 3, count up and put your 3 double crochets in there. Or you can do like I do, just go into this space and do 3 double crochets, just like so. And that is what you should have so far. Alrighty, moving right along, we're starting our first row repeat. So we just finished our second row repeat, and that is the foundation row that I like to call, because we have to build this foundation row in order to build our next V's. Okay, so every time we do a foundation row, excuse me, we are putting on a V here, a V here, a V here, and a V here. So we'll always be adding 4 more V's on every first row repeat after the foundation row, what I call the foundation row. Okay, so chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, turn our work, and let's do our 2 double crochets into that very first stitch like we always do. It always starts the same way. And now we need to get a V-stitch in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip this next stitch right here. We're going to skip that stitch there, and into this third stitch we're going to put another V-stitch. So double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. And that brings us to our next V-stitch. Not this space here, but this one right here. And we're just going to do a V-stitch right inside the V-stitch. Double crochet, chain 2, double crochet into that same space of the V-stitch from the previous row, just like so. And of course then we're going to jump over to this next V right here, not this one right here, and do another V-stitch. And then we're going to skip 1, 2, and then do a V-stitch into this stitch. Skip 1, 2, of course, and that brings us to our chain 1 space from the previous row, and we always work the same in there. Alright, so let's go ahead, knot this one into this V right here. We're going to do another V-stitch, so double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, and we are going to skip, and then into this third one we are going to do a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet right back into that same stitch to create a V-stitch. That brings us to our chain 1 space. We are going to, because obviously we're skipping 1, 2, into our chain 2, we are going to put 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 more double crochets into that same space, and then that brings us to the other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip 1, 1, 2, and into the third one we are going to put another V-stitch, double crochet, chain 2, double crochet into that same stitch to make a new V-stitch. And then that brings us to our next V right here. Not to be confused with that space. All right. We want to go right into that next V right here. Another V right here. Not to be confused with that space or that one. We want this one, and then we want this one. These two right here. And then I'll show you what to do on the other side. All right, so V-stitch into the V-stitch. Another V-stitch into the V-stitch. And then we are going to, now for this one, of course, we're going to put our 3 double crochets in here. So technically, I like to count backwards sometimes because I just find it easier. So technically, we are skipping 1, 2, and going into this one. Or you can count 1, 2, and then going into that one. But I just like to make sure that I'm doing it correctly. And I'll go counting it backwards just a little. Okay, another V-stitch we're doing into this. After we skipped we did our V-stitch. Skip 1, 2, into the third, V-stitch into there. So double crochet, chain 2, double crochet into that stitch. And that brings us to our 1, 2, our 3 double crochets at the end. And again, you can count up 1, 2, 3 and work your 3 double crochets in there. Or you can do like I'm doing, just going right into that space. Makes it a lot easier. I don't have to try and dig my hook in there. And there's our 3 double crochets at the end. And that completes our first row repeats. And now next is our foundation row repeats. So it goes along very quickly. Alrighty, moving right along. Here we go. We are going to chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, turn our work. And as always, right, we start into that very first stitch and work our 2 double crochets. And now we need to do our foundation row, right? So we need to get a double crochet into this stitch right there and right here. So go ahead and insert your hook into this next stitch right here. Do a double crochet. And then into the next stitch right here, we're doing a double crochet. And that brings us to a V-stitch right here. So in the V-stitch, we do another V-stitch. So double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, all into that space, just like so. Then we jump over to our next V, not this space, that space right there, and do our V-stitch, which by now you should know what a V-stitch is, right? 1 double crochet, chain 2, 1 double crochet, all into the same space. Then we're going to skip over to our next V, not this one, that one right there. And you can always hit pause if it's going too fast, or you can always speed it up if it's going too slow. I think sometimes people forget that, or you can rewind, which is always nice. Alrighty, so now we made that V. Now we're going into the next V, not that space, this one. I always like to remind people because sometimes, you know, we're moving along so quickly if you're doing it fast or whatever, and it can happen. It has happened. So, okay. Hopefully it doesn't happen to you, but it has happened. All right, so now we're back heading towards the chain 1 space, and we need to build a foundation. So we're going to go into this space right, okay, so we just did our V-stitch, right, into the V. We're going to go right into this stitch and into that stitch and do double crochet. So into this stitch right here, we're going to do a double crochet, and then into the next stitch right here, another double crochet. And that brings us to our chain 1 space where we're going to work 2 double crochets into that space, a chain 1, and another 2 double crochet, all into that same space. So that's easy to remember, right? Now, working back down, we have our V-stitch right here, and we are going to work into that stitch and into, so we're going to work into this stitch, and we're going to work into this stitch. We're not going to work into that stitch. We're going to put a double crochet into this one. Oops, my yarn just came right off. Okay, let me do that again. So we're working not into this stitch right here, but we're working into this one. And then we're going to work into this stitch right here. That's part of that V-stitch right there. And that brings us to the V-stitch where, of course, in the V-stitch, what do? We put another V-stitch. Double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. And then that brings us to our next V-stitch. Not this space, that space, right into that V-stitch. We're going to do another V-stitch. Then we jump over to the next V-stitch. Not that space, this one. You'll probably get tired of me hearing me say that, but then it'll maybe, you'll look for it and say, oh yeah. Okay, and then jump over to the next V-stitch right there and put another V-stitch, chain 2, double crochet. And now we need to build our foundation again. So here's our chain 3, and there's the stitch we want to do a double crochet into there and into here, not into this one this time. So that's the only difference. So when we're going in the beginning and at the end, we don't work into the part of the V-stitch. At the tip, we do. So we are in our V-stitch. We're not going into this one. We're going into this one and then that one and doing a double crochet into each of those. So double crochet and then double crochet. And then here we are at our chain 3. Again, you can do your 3 double crochets into that stitch, or you can go right into that space in between and do, my low battery came up and I can't see what I'm doing. It's funny how I use the camera as to see what I'm doing. This way I know that it's clear or where. Okay, so going back, I'm going right into this space right here and doing my 3 double crochets. As we always end the same way. Alrighty. And that's what you should have so far. It's coming so beautiful. Alrighty, so now we are going to start our first row repeat, and then we're going to do another row of the foundation row. However, I'm not going to show you another row of the foundation row. I'm going to actually show you what you would do if you were going to put on a border, or if you're opting not to, but I want to at least show you how to do that. Okay, so let's go and do this first row repeat again. And you could stop on this row to do a border if you wish. It's totally up to you. All right, so let's chain up 3. 1, 2, 3. Turn our work. And do our 2 double crochets into that very first stitch like we always do. And now we have to create a new V. So to do that, we want to skip this stitch, that stitch, and go into the 3rd stitch from our very first stitch that we had done. So it's technically the 4th stitch from, 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can skip 2 and go into the 3rd. That's easier to remember, right? So skip, skip, and into the 3rd, we're creating a new V. So that's a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet into that same stitch. And there is our new V. Now we're just going to jump right over to the next V. And we're going to do a V-stitch in the V-stitch. Very simple. Next, another V into the V-stitch. Hopefully you've gotten the hang of locating what the V-stitch looks like from the previous row. Remember, it's not that space, it's this one, so there's another V-stitch. I'll have to do that one over. I guess my yarn came undone there. So we've done our first created V-stitch, a V-stitch into this V-stitch, a V-stitch into that one, a V-stitch into that one, and then we have one more V-stitch to go into before we create a new one. So this is our last V-stitch that we're going into. And then it's time to create a new V-stitch. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip this stitch. Okay, so we're into the V-stitch. We're going to skip that very first stitch right there, this stitch right here, and then into this third one, we're going to create a new V-stitch. Just like so. And now we're at the top of our chain one space. And what do we do in there? The same thing we always do. 2 double crochets, chain 1, and then 2 more double crochets into that same space. Now we have to work back down and we have to create a new V between the chain 1 space and our next V. So we're going to skip that stitch, skip the second stitch, and into that third stitch right there, we are going to create a new V. So let's get another V stitch in there. And now we're up to the next V. Remember, not this space right here, but the V-stitch space. Okay, and there's another V. And then another V. And then another V. And then we're coming up towards the end again. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip that first stitch, second stitch, and go into the third and create another V-stitch. And then we're at the end. So skip, skip, and then of course into the top of that chain 3 space, you can either work your 3 double crochets in there or do like I have been doing and just go right into that space and do my 3 double crochets. Okay, so let's recap on what we have done so far. We had started with our first row of our first row repeat, right, of our first V-stitch. Then we went into our second row repeat, which was the foundation row. Then we did our first row repeat. Then we had done our foundation row repeat. Now we're up to our first row of the repeat of just making V-stitches. And I wanted to go over borders with you because my next step is to show you if you want to, so technically you could stop right here and put on just tassels and call it a border. And that's what I had done with this one right here. I love this one. If I could just find, it's just so festive. And if I could just find this color of the Mandala Ombre in a solid skein, I would be in my glory because I love that hot pink. And I love that turquoise too. I mean, it's all beautiful. I feel like I should be wearing this to like a Mardi Gras or Spanish restaurant type of thing. It's just so festive. And with the tassels, it just makes it so much fun. And so for this, the reason why I ended on the foundation row was because I didn't have another row of hot pink to go and do my single row like I wanted to do. So like in the other ones, I did more than 2 rows of the colors. But at the end, I was like, well, I'm down to the last. I'm just going to do 1 row. And I wanted to do another row of hot pink, but I didn't have enough. So I just decided to put tassels in each V. And when I did that, I put a tassel in where the V-stitch would have gone in the next row. And that's how I ended this one. And that's my border. Very simple, very easy. And I just love it. And so at the top, I did the same thing. I did the tassel in the V-stitch. I did a tassel where the V-stitch would have gone in the previous row. And then I did a little bit of a thicker tassel at the chain 1 space, which I had also done at the beginning and the end as well. I made a little thicker tassel. And then I went in to do a tassel where the V-stitch would have went in this on this side, and then I went into all the V's again. Very simple. So that's what you could do with this one if you wanted to. Then you wouldn't have to worry about putting a tassel in the foundation row. So you could just end on this one if you have enough yarn. The other one I did was, and this is why I wanted to show you what to do. I had done just a simple double crochet in each of the V-stitches. And then I went in to do another row of double crochet and then another row of double crochet. And what I did was I still followed suit with doing the 3 double crochets in the beginning. And of course the 2 double crochets, chain 1 into the chain 1 space. And then of course I ended it. And I just continued to follow suit on every single one. You know, you do the 3 double crochets like we always start. And that's how I ended it. It's very clean cut border. Very simple. Now for this one, okay, for this one, I love this one too. I wear this one a lot too. Because it's in the picture it looks brown, but it's actually like a charcoal gray. And it's just so beautiful. And it has like these little colored specks in it, which makes it go with anything. And I love it. And this one was very simple too. For this border, all I did was, as always, start with the chain and then the 2 double crochets. And then I did a double crochet around into each V-stitch. I did 3 double crochets in each V. And then I ended it with a single crochet. And I don't know if you can see that or not, but just a simple single crochet. And that's how I ended my border for that. Okay. And then I did the same thing, even though it's a single crochet, I still did the 3 single crochets into the first stitch, just like we normally would do. And at the V, I did the same exact thing as well. Where is it? I just put 2 single crochets, chain 1, and 2 single crochets into the chain 1 space. And so I wanted to show you this because I love this technique. It's a button, which I never take this off, but all it is a button sewn like rounded, gone around with string in the middle. And it makes such a cute little clasp. I never take this off because I just put my head over in it and I leave this button on. And it's just so cute because it just looks like a little button, you know, right in the middle of your shawl. And it turned out so adorable. I love it. So I wanted to show you that. And there's also this one here that I ordered a bunch of these online. They're called I call them a medieval shawl pin. And I think that's what they're actually called. But it looks so medieval. And so it has like the points. But I use these a lot too. In fact, every shawl I make for someone, I try to give this with it. It's just really cool. Anyway, all right, going on. My rugby shawl. I call it the rugby shawl because of It looks like rugby stripes, and I love rugby. My next is to make like a dark red and a blue one. So for this one, this border here, I used a border from another girl's channel, and I just love her patterns. I've made so many ponchos with her from her patterns. It's just amazing. So I'll put a link in the description box below of this border here. I love the apex point. Like, it's just so cute. Let me just move this out of the way so maybe you can see it better. But that is just so cute. So, sorry, my camera died. Or my phone, I guess I should say. So with what I was going to say before I got cut off is I was going to put tassels in each one of these points, but I didn't. But her pattern does call for doing a row of single crochet after, before you do this, but I didn't do that and it worked out fine. So it's totally up to you. I just did a row of double crochet and then jumped right into this. For the chain one space, I did do 1, 2, 3 on each side, and then of course the one in the middle. So for a total of 7. And here, of course, it calls for 5, including the one in the middle. Where the I don't know, I call it an apex. I'm gonna call it that. But so you kind of like, crochet 3 and then go right in to that same stitch is all you're doing to make this. And it's just so cute. I love it. I don't know if I just want to make sure I didn't do 7 here as well. And no, I did 5 right into that, Well, we had to like skip a stitch and then go into it to make it like lay flat. But you'll see, if you do this one, you'll see it in her tutorial. She explains it really good. And I just love her stuff. So yeah. All right. So going on with what I was explaining of what I wanted to show you about this one was if you were going to say end, and like I said, you can put tassels here if you want to, or if you want to, make just a double crochet border, or if you want to go into 2 double crochets, whatever you want to do there, I'm just going to show you how to do that. So this way, which it's very simple, but I'm going to show you how to do that. So you want to try and do it on the row that you're building your foundation row, because you're going to be putting in your double crochets anyway. So that's just my opinion. You don't have to do it that way, but that's what I would suggest. So of course, we start with a chain 3 as always. Turn our work. And of course, 2 double crochets into that very first stitch, like we always do. Oops, of course I hit that. What would it be if I didn't hit that, right? I hope it doesn't knock you around. I haven't noticed yet. So, all right. So now so just like doing the foundation row, we always go in to, the very next stitch and do a double crochet. And then into the next stitch and do a double crochet. And my yarn is getting stuck. Okay, so let me finish that double crochet. So we did our chain 3, 2 double crochets into the very first stitch, double crochet into the next one, and a double crochet into the next one. Normally we jump in and do a V-stitch right there, but instead we're just going to do a row, 3 double crochets into that V-stitch. I was thinking of something, how, if you wanted to, you could actually just do a row of double crochet and then jump back into your normal V's, creating V's again, if you wanted to get creative. That's totally up to you. I had done a shawl like that, and I believe it's in the pink one I made by Red Heart. I added a row of double crochets just to make it a little more thicker if you're going to wear it, like maybe, through fall or something like that, or maybe you just want a little warmer, I shouldn't say thicker, warmer, warmer shawl. Okay, so I did the 3 double crochets into that V. Then you're just going to go over to the next V, and of course, just put 3 double crochets in that one. And then again in this one, 3 double crochets. Again in this V, 3 double crochets. Of course, you know, your shawl will be a lot longer by this point, or unless you're making it for like a doll, I guess. But yeah, you know, you can just keep rewinding and playing it if you need to. So 3 double crochets into that V. So in every V stitch, it's 3 double crochets. Very easy to do. But I at least wanted to show you. So now we're at this. Now, normally when we got to doing the foundation row, of course, we would have done our V stitch, and then we would go into this stitch and then that stitch, and then immediately do our 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets into the chain 1 space from the previous row. However, in this one, we are still going to go into that very next stitch and then again into this stitch right here. And then we are going to go ahead and go and do 2 double crochets into the chain 1 space, chain 1, and then 2 double crochets into the next. Now for this one, going backwards, we always and still are going to skip this one right here, and then we're going to go jump into that next stitch, just like we would be still building our foundation chain, foundation row, except the only difference is, and of course we go into the top of that V, and then we do our 3 double crochets into the V. So that's really the only difference. But I at least wanted to show you what it would look like, or if you wanted to add a row of this, you know, and it just looks really pretty, and it gives it a nice finish. And of course then you do the same going back down. So I'm just going to go in and do my 3 double crochets into each V stitch. And my yarn is not acting accordingly for me. I just get some more yarn here. Okay. So into the next V, 3 double crochets. And then the next one, 3 double crochets. And into the next one, 3 double crochets. And then into the next one, 3 double crochets. And then we're back here where we don't go into the top of the V, and we're just going to go into, like we normally would, into the next one. We're going to skip that one, go into the next one, do a double crochet. Next one, do a double crochet. And then of course your ending of your 3 double crochets into either the top of the chain 3 or that space like I'm doing. And that would end for your shawl. If you wanted to just end it there, you could, or you can go ahead and do, of course, you know, chain up 3, turn your work, go in, 2 double crochets, and just do double crochets all the way around, or even single crochets, which I'll show you what that is. So if you were going to do a single crochet, you would just chain up 1, turn your work. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm yarning over there. Turn your work, go into that first space, and do 2 single crochets. This is the one that I did on the charcoal one. And then I just do single crochets all the way back, which is so easy. And it gives it, you know, another nice clean cut row. And then of course, when you get to the top, you'd put 2 single crochets, chain 1, 2 single crochets into there. And then at the other end, you would do your 3 single crochets, and then of course tie it off. And to tie it off, all you would do is yarn over, pull it through, cut your yarn. I'm not going to cut mine, but cut your yarn, and then you just pull that piece through and then weave it in. Very simple. So, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to mention, but yeah, that's pretty much it. And you could even just leave it like that if you wanted to with just one row, but there was a couple things I wanted to show actually before I closed out this video. And one was, if you had decided that maybe you just wanted to add a row of double crochet just to make it a little more warmer, maybe you want to do 2 rows, it is better to have it that you do it, how do I explain it, on a foundation row. Like if you do another row of double crochet, make sure you do another row of like of a foundation row and then jump into doing the V's. So I just wanted to show you that if you wanted to jump into the V's from right here after you did a double crochet, and maybe every, you know, so many rows, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you want to do a double crochet row, it'll still give it some warmth. And actually, well, let me show you how to turn this into a V, and then I'm going to show you what I did on what I call the rugby shawl. Because with that, I don't want to confuse anybody, but I will show you what I did with that one to make it warmer as well, and still continued with the V's that I did. So let me just get some yarn out of here because it was starting to get snag. Okay, so let me take these single crochets out that I did. All right, so if I did a row of double crochets and I wanted to jump back into the V's, all I would do is crochet up 3, a chain of 3. I already had my one from when I did the single crochet to show you. So of course 2 double crochet into the first stitch, as we always do. And then you're just going to, of course, skip these 2 right here, and you're going to go into the third and you're going to create a V, just like you normally would, as if you would be on the foundation row. And then that's going to bring you to what would be the V below, right? So all you're going to do is look at those 3 double crochets where your V is and go right into the middle, the third one. I'm so sorry. It'd be technically the second double crochet, but you're going to go into this space where the second double crochet is, and you're just going to create a V-stitch right inside there. So this way it will still continue with the pattern of where you had left off from the previous row, because you still want to have that V like lined up as you go along so it doesn't look distorted. So then you're going to just jump over to the next set of 3 double crochets and go right again into that middle one right there and do a V-stitch. And then again, you're going to jump over to the next one, and again, of course, right in the middle there, you're going to do another V. Just like so. Then you're going to jump over to the next one and do a V. Over to the next set of 3 double crochets in the middle, do a V. And then again, we are at the what we would have done as the foundation row, right? So as you can see, this is our 3 double crochets. This is where we started the foundation row. So right in the middle of these 3 double crochets from the V stitch below, we're going to go right into that middle, do a V, and then we're going to do another V. We're going to skip 1, 2, and go right into this stitch right here, the third stitch, and do another V. And then, of course, we're going to skip and go right into this chain one space and do what we always do, which would be 2 double crochets, chain 1, and then 2 double crochets. And then that's what you should have. I'm gonna probably have a hard time getting this all on the camera, but so it's, you know, it's basically the same thing. You're gonna follow suit, but we're still adding on to another V right here because we created another V, and then these V's will line up with the V's below. But I'll just have like a nice layer of double crochet in between. Almost looks like a granny stitch to me. Whenever I see 3 double crochets in a space, it's like a granny stitch to me. So then, of course, you know, we added another V right here, and then we did our normal 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet, and then of course we'd go right back down the other side, which is, okay, like I was saying, which is we're going to be going into the middle of this one right here. So we know that we skip 1, 2, and then we're skipping 2 here. So we know that this one right here is where our next V is going to go. So when you're going back down, it's clear to see we're skipping 1, 2 and going into this one and doing a new V. Okay, and then of course there's the 3, and in the middle we're going to put another V. I'm sorry that my video keeps cutting off. I do apologize for that. We're almost finishing up here, so hopefully it won't happen again in between that time, but you never know. Okay, oops. Alrighty, and now there's the 3. We're going to go into the middle, do a V. And into the middle there, do a V. Okay, and then into this V right here. Well, not into this V, into those 3 stitches, in the middle of those 3 stitches to make a V. And then we're coming up on our last one right here of the 3 double crochets in the middle, make a V. And then for the end, and this is where I like to double check by counting backwards. So we know we're going to put our 3 double crochets in here, or for me in here, but we know that this is a stitch that we want to skip, is 1 and 2, and then we're going to go right into there, which is still 1, 2, but I just like to make sure, just so I know my count is right from the previous row and everything is good. Okay, and there's our new V. And then, of course, our last 3 double crochets into, I'm doing into the chains, the space. You can do into the top of a 3 double crochet, 3 chains if you choose to. And so now we would just go back into our regular crochet, you know, into our foundation row, our 2 row repeat. So this was our first row repeat. So basically this could be considered a foundation row where you made just double crochets, and it will make it a lot warmer because you're adding more stitches. So, and of course more stitches in less space and more coverage. So I wanted to show you something I had done with this shawl, my rugby shawl I call it. What I had done here, which you know you can do as well, I made this in the autumn, so I wanted to have a little more warmth. So I actually did 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of double crochet in the beginning, which made it a nice coverage around my neck. And then of course I jumped into doing the V's. However, when I got to do the foundation row, I actually did 5 I actually did 5 instead of 4 at the tip up here. So I wanted to show you how I did that, just in case you want to play around and do that as well. It's totally optional. But if you're going to do that, you know, if you're going to do the 5, I would do it through the entire pattern, not start now and do it. So it's just something for you to think about if you want to make this shawl again and maybe make it more warmth, add more warmth to it, which is more another stitch, which will add more, I don't want to say condensing, but it's not condensed, you know, more warmth, because you're going to have more yarn and more stitches. So if that makes any sense. Oh, I lose my words when I get on video. Anyway, so that's what I did here. And so I'm going to show you that. So it's not something you want to just jump in and start doing now. It's something that you would start from the beginning and do, but it is an option for you to do. And I wanted to show you that because that's what I had done with one of them. And it was kind of neat, but I will show you on this just as a sample, because I'm probably going to end up taking this all out anyway. Or maybe not. But I'll have to take out this row because, like I said, if you do it this, you want to start it from the beginning, not just starting it now. Because it just probably, I don't know if it would lay right or not. So, all right. I am going to chain up 3. 1, 2, 3. Turn our work, of course, into the very first stitch, as always. Our 2 double crochets into that first stitch. So everything is the same, except for when you get to the top. So now we're going to go into this stitch right here, do our double crochet, the other double crochet for the foundation chain like we always do. And then, of course, we're going to do our V's, V stitch in every V. My last V stitch right into here before we come to the chain 1 space. And this is where we're going to add the extra stitch. So normally we would go into this stitch right here for the foundation row, the second row repeat. We would go into this one, and then jump right into here. But this time we're going to go into this one, and then that one. Okay, so we're going to go into 3. Just like so. Then we're going to go into our chain 1 space and do what we always do, 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets, then we're going to come back down the other side, and normally when we're making the foundation row, we skip this one, go into this one and into that one, and then do our V. This time, we're going to go into this stitch right here, into this stitch right here, and into that one. So we have a total of 3 instead of 2. And then, of course, we would do our V stitch again. And then, of course, all the way back down to the end, and we know what we do at the end. What I want to show you is, well, let me just recap really quickly, and I'll do this again. V stitch, right, into that last V. We normally do our foundation row, and normally we do this one, and then we jump. However, we're doing 1, 2, 3, then jumping into our chain 1, 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets, then going immediately into this next stitch that we normally skip. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then, well, let's do it this way. We have 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, and then our V stitch. So we're doing 3 on this side, 3 on that side, and our 2 in the middle. So it will make it warmer. So that's what I wanted to show you. And then, of course, you know, after we made our 2 double crochet and our 3, we go right into here and make a V. So it will make it have more stitches, which creates more yarn, which has more yarn and more warmth And that's what that looks like, instead of, you know, here where it's more spacey. So I hope that was easy to understand. If that's something you want to try, you know, to make it a warmer shawl instead of having it, you know, very lacy, like, you know, open like that. But it's still very warm, even like this. Like, I think so. Anyway, I use these all the time, so it's still very warm. But like I said, now you can have an extra layer of this to make it warmer. You can do this if you want to. So you have options to this shawl, and it's a great, easy pattern. And I really hope you enjoyed it. I do apologize for any little bloopers I may have had in here, and hopefully it was still easy to follow. I am still a newbie to this. I'm not a pro at any means to these videos. So, yeah, I do apologize. I know one woman had mentioned that there was a lot of jibber jabber in one, but it was my very first video I made, and I wanted to explain why I feel the need to give back to the community of crocheting, the crocheting community, of course, because I have gotten so much free things out of them, and why not give back? And so that's what I'm doing, and hence the reason for these videos. And I thank you again for your patience with me and your time, and for following along. And if you've come this far, well, I hope your shawl continues to grow and wraps around you very gracefully and beautifully. And again, thank you. I do want to give a shout out to my beautiful children, and maybe they'll be watching this one day and decide to make one. And or my sisters, or any other family members I have out there, my cousins and friends. And so thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful day or night.